this week I have with me somebody really inspiring. Her name is Gwendolyn Thong.
Hello, Alisa.
I've been so excited because I also know that you have a very interesting story and you've gone through a lot on your journey. So maybe you could just give our listeners a bit of a background.
I'm a former teacher from MOE and I've had like 8 years of teaching experience. For the bulk of it, I was teaching at a secondary school. For the past 2 years, I've been teaching at NUS because that was where I was doing my master's in public policy. So it was a bit of a transition, being, a public servant, and then after that, leaving the public service and then going into academia. After teaching for 6 years, I decided to take a leap of faith, apply for a program, and I was just blessed to be able to be given this opportunity to pursue my master's in public policy. Since then, I've been doing Chatty Caterpillar full time. Chatty Caterpillar is a mental wellness education company, and we work with schools and companies to actually promote mental health awareness and tools that people can use on a daily basis to boost their mental health.
Chatty Caterpillar, it felt like it was a thing that you were suddenly inspired to do and inspired to create after coming from a completely different background, like education and then studying public policy. So, what actually inspired Chatty Caterpillar and the focus on mental health?
To a certain extent, you can't deny that a teacher has an incredible impact on his or her limited pool of students every year. You also observe that there are some persistent issues that just cannot be solved. I really wanted to view it not only from the perspective of a teacher, but also from the perspective of a policymaker. Like, what are things that are missing? What are some of the persistent issues that seem to be overlooked by everyone? And I realized that one of the persistent issues is very poor mental health amongst our youth. And tried as I wanted to over the years to fix it, I just saw that it got like bad to worse. To be more precise, certain things that people will be going through will be persistent comparing on Instagram, for instance. So that leads to low self-esteem. Some other issues would be school refusal, how people always equate their self-worth to the grades that they have.
Yes. And also, I think in
Yeah.
a culture like Singapore, where, if that's how your parents were taught, then you end up bringing up your kids as well.
Even though I'm a Christian, right, and supposedly they teach us at church that like the core identity is that you're a child of Christ. But then, when we go back home and we educate our kids, we'll be like, we still be forcing them to study very hard. We still be forcing them to take certain career pathways. So there's this huge incongruence between what's being taught at church and what's being taught at home and what's being taught at school. In fact, I feel that many of our youths and maybe even adults these days are living lives that are incongruent. So when they're at work, they are a certain self. When they're at home, they are a certain self. When they're at church, they are a certain self. There's just a different set of beliefs that happens everywhere, and if it's not managed properly, it leads to mental health issues. Stresses are inevitable in life. Okay, you are bound to encounter different challenges throughout your life, and you are going to be, probably like me, aware of many incongruencies that happen all the time, and it's going to cause you a little bit of discomfort with your environment, right? So you have your own goals, you have your own aspirations, and all these things will cause you to also feel at times that you're inadequate and that you just don't have enough resources. This journey that you're going on, right, from like point A to your ultimate destination, where you want to achieve, right, where you want to be in life, is not going to be without setbacks, right? And how are you going to get there? Okay, I believe that one of the core ingredients to your success is very good mental health education. Countries that have embarked on starting a good mental health a curriculum has actually reaped the benefits of it over the years. I'm looking at like European countries, like France, for instance, focuses a lot on empowering the youth to think in a critical way, even even long before the point where they are actually required to make very big and drastic decisions for themselves or for society. As youth in school, they are already equipped with that critical thinking ability. And when you can think critically about the issues that are persistently in your subconscious plaguing you, right? And you can understand the way the brain works, and you can understand the things that drive you even physically, and place them all within the context of how you interact with the environment. Simply put, right, this whole experience of being alive, this whole experience of developing thoughts and ideas independently of your parents, do you know that all this has to do with mental health?
Mhm.
Yeah, and mental health is not something that is only relevant to people who are susceptible to mental health disease. Mental health is relevant to everyone, especially I would say people who feel like they want to live a life that is unconventional. People who feel like they want to make a mark in history. All the more should they start to develop their mental resilience. Because it's only when you're mentally strong that you are able to achieve your very best.
Completely resonate with so many of those points. And I think also what you're trying to bring across is mental health is not just a sickness or an illness, it's also mental wellness. Because mental
Yeah,
health is like keeping your mind healthy, right? And I think
exactly.
that is where people tend to feel, oh, mental health, like let's not talk about it because it has a very negative connotation. But you're talking about it in a positive way of like, let's keep our mind healthy and well. That's also taking care of your mental health. I had that moment suddenly. I was like, oh, that's exactly what mental health is. So I was just wondering for you as well, as an entrepreneur, I would say, embarking on this whole journey, were there any times you felt, okay, this is an obstacle, this is a challenge, like you said, going against the grain is something where you need a lot of mental resilience, right? So you probably had a lot of opportunities to actually put your thoughts and your research into practice. So how has the journey been for you?
Right, like one of my friends shared an analogy, and I think I don't mind sharing with you because it's kind of cute, which is, the idea of a journey to the West.
Mhm.
So entrepreneurship is very much like that. Like there's this central character who was this abbot, right? Tang San Zhang. And then he begins on his journey to the West. And every step along the way, he picks up disciples who are actually journeying with him in the same direction. Entrepreneurship feels very much like that, you may have this brilliant idea, so to speak, like I want to help people build their mental resilience. I want to destigmatize mental health. Basically, I want to bring it back to the correct understanding of mental health. But you can't do it alone. So, if I were to put down like the three main struggles that I've experienced over the past couple of years, it would be firstly to pick the correct business partners,
Mhm.
secondly to set up the necessary business systems, and thirdly to actually step up to your new financial responsibilities. Very often, I guess the struggle would be to know the identity of the company that you're building. I would say that at the start of like having a vision of, okay, this is what I want to build, because there's this inexplicable, or this link that cannot be separated between the founder and the company.
Right.
So if you have any doubt in yourself, it actually overflows into the company. You are not sure of yourself as the founder, then it's going to overflow, or it's going to have trickle down to your company, where the company lacks an identity as well,
Mhm.
right? So I think when that happens, you need to actually spend some time by yourself to figure out who you are as a person first, and then when you are more sure about who you are as a person, then you'll be able to be sure what your company is going to be about. And then you'll be able to pick correct business partners. The biggest mistakes I've made, instead of asking myself, right, is this someone I think I can be working with for the next 10 years, for instance? I typically, when I encounter people who actually buy into the idea and they like it and they want to contribute, I'll just say, great, come and join me as a co-founder, come and join me as a partner. But as a result, right, over the past 3 years, I've lost more people than I've gained. And sometimes some people who stay, right, they have conflicts with other people who are in the company. If you're an entrepreneur, firstly, to get to know yourself better. And then secondly, when you know yourself better, then you know your company better, and then you'll be more discerning of who you actually invite to be a business partner. And if you do that, what will happen is that you'll find that the journey will be much less of a struggle.
You're the roots, and then everything else is going to flourish has to be because you are strong and you've got a good foundation already, and no matter what happens to the rest of the tree, you are still stable.
Even if the tree gets chopped off, right, as long as the roots are still there, once that the core team is set up, right, setting up a business system, yeah, and this is difficult because no matter what you are good at, you'll realize in being an entrepreneur that you will not be good at enough things, like that diversity of the skill sets that are required within this business enterprise, right, to be able to set up all the business systems on your own. Like, you may be very good product developer, but then if you're not good at accountancy, then how are you going to set up a proper accountancy system? There's also the human resource system, and then there's also the business development, right? And then there's also the client service. Setting up all these business systems are important because when you can put like one person like specifically, oh, you'll be in charge of this particular part of the system, and then develop that kind of communication norm, that routine. This is when all the systems are, they're like cogs in a larger machine. They'll start to turn properly, and then you find that every month, right, there's enough revenue being generated to keep the wheels turning. So you're still moving forward as a business. But if the business systems don't work, then it becomes a whole new issue altogether, especially when the thing is already turning. So imagine that you're on a bicycle and the bicycle is already moving, but one of the cogs fall out. Wow, okay, this is a big issue now because there are still clients to service, right? Your business development people are still going out there meeting new clients, developing the market, and yet there's a possibility that the bicycle is out of control and can crash. So I will recommend that if you are really setting up a business, like me, you need to put some thought into setting up robust business systems, and also think through what you can do. Let's say if there are certain problems that occur along the way, right? That okay, there's an imminent disaster. The bicycle is now out of control, right? These situations are bound to happen. You cannot like get a driver's license without first thinking about what will happen if you ever get into an accident. You need to plan for these kind of things.
And the third challenge is at the actual revenue rolling in, right? Because I feel like a lot of times people who start businesses, a lot of times they're working out of passion. They're working because this is something that they've maybe thought about for like the last 10 years. So they don't necessarily know how important it is to make sure money is rolling in so that the business can continue to run. Because you're running based off of your heart, which is great. But you've also got to, in a way, be practical, right? How do you maneuver that?
Okay, so the third challenge is financial responsibilities, right? I've actually been studying so many different CEO case studies just to get up to speed on how to do this. And I realized that no matter how large or how small your company is, right, when you are the CEO of a company, financial responsibilities is always a problem. So I'm talking about like billion-dollar enterprises, like companies that are like worth billions of dollars, but like at an instant, right, their share prices could collapse, or due to basically supply chain issues, they cannot meet all their clients' expectations within that time frame. So all these are events that can happen that are then now within the purview of the CEO to fix. And so before this, I was just managing finances for myself and my family. Okay, and trust me, that is already stressful. But then when you manage finances for a company, it's on a totally different level. Like the numbers that usually you may be very uncomfortable with talking about as a person. Like I don't talk in millions when I talk about my own finances, but when I'm talking about my company, so I'm like, this year I think we at least need to raise $2 million, and that's actually quite a small amount for a company. So the first step to actually accepting financial responsibility is to first realize that financial responsibility is something that affects every single CEO. Right? It's not as if your company is huge, right? Then you suddenly don't have to care about this. No, this is one of the bread and butter issues. And then secondly, be very comfortable with talking in larger numbers. Yeah, because you realize that now the company needs to run on a much higher capacity.
Yeah.
So therefore it needs a lot more fuel to run, and the money is the fuel. So that those are basically where you can place your heart in now. That kind of security that you have in your heart, which is that firstly, what is happening to you is not uncommon, and secondly, this seemingly large amounts of money is just your basic bread and butter. It's not something that requires too much emotional reaction. Okay, so the company lost 50,000. Is that a big deal? Okay, if a person loses $50,000, it's a big deal. But if a company loses $50,000 and because of that cannot survive, then it's a matter of your poor business planning, because this is not supposed to happen, right? As a company, you need to be able to survive within a very much more volatile financial situation. But having said that, let's move on to then how do you maintain like a decent bank balance? How do you have profits? And this is a very important question even in the midst of a pandemic, right?
It's
Right,
even
like
more important in the midst of a
even
pandemic. Yeah.
even more important, like so
Yeah.
many companies that were in the black at first now are in the red. You need to establish the value of the product or the service that you're offering. Yeah, and the value has to be communicated very clearly with all the stakeholders involved. Okay, so your customers need to know the value of the product, your staff definitely need to know the value of the product, and then of course you have your shareholders and investors, and also the public. Okay, so the public are people who are not your customers yet, okay, but when they think about your company, they need to know that oh, this is what the company provides for our society. So value proposition is one of the key tenets of finally arriving at meeting your financial responsibilities. But the second thing, of course, that's very important is financial prudence, how you actually manage the cost of your company. Very elementary if you think about it. If the revenue goes up, but the cost goes up at the same pace, then in the end, the profits remain the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so what, right? In that sense, you will say, but it doesn't matter because as long as I make the same amount of profits, and now I have a larger market share, shouldn't I be happy? Shouldn't I be satisfied? But this is something that the CEO needs to really think through. Like, why is my business this way? Shouldn't there be certain forms of economies of scale that I can tap on? Which is as business goes up, like revenue goes up, my average cost must come down so that the profit margin grows even higher, right? So what is it that I have not done yet to keep my cost manageable? And there's 101 different things that you can do and explore, which is why I think if you are a CEO or you're like trying to build a company or even a non-profit, the thing that you must constantly do is to research on ways to keep your costs low.
I love that. And there's actually so much more we could talk about, but we are running out of time. So before we end this episode, I do want to give you the platform to share whatever socials you want.
You know, if you just type in Chatty Caterpillar, you'll be able to find us. Okay, but our exact name is THE_Chatty_Caterpillar on Instagram.
Go and find Gwen at the_Chatty_Caterpillar on Instagram. Thank you so much, Gwen, for being part of my interview. Thank you for even being willing to be interviewed and for having this conversation with me. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Elisa. It's really my privilege. I believe that what you're doing, right, this podcast series is gonna impact so many lives. So keep on at it, and I believe that one day, yeah, this is gonna be international.
And thank you for all of you who are listening and tuning in. We are going to say bye. So we'll see you again on the next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.